Health Department's Chief Financial Officer Lerato, Madyo, and Tembisa Hospital CEO Mthunzi were both placed on precautionary suspension with immediate effect by the provincial government on Friday. This as the Special Investigating Unit investigates 850 million rands worth of payments made by the hospital to numerous entities, many of which are shell companies. To speak to us about this matter, we are joined by Sanco Gauteng Provincial Coordinator Mpho, Se-se-dinyane. Mpho, good evening, and thank you very much for your time and for joining us tonight here on In Focus. What do you make of the suspension of the CEO and the CFO at the Health Department?
Thank you for having me, and let me take this opportunity to greet the viewers out there. Look, as a South African National Civic Organization, we wish to welcome the decision to place the CFO and the CEO in particular of Tembisa Hospital on a suspension after we have actually held a press briefing and in actual fact, as a civic organization, released this corruption that has been taking place in Tembisa Hospital, where services is compromised, and of course the looting of the public department is taking place. And when we did that, people thought that we were just playing politics, but we actually wanted to ensure that we deal with this corruption that is taking place. And with the SIU coming on board immediately after we have released such a statement, we're very pleased that we had to ensure that we give the SIU what is necessary for them to peruse and be able to do these investigations. And we're very happy that indeed this process is happening, and we are not going to unfortunately rest there, because heads must roll. It is our firm belief that the political head, of course, in the midst should also be in a position to follow, because this was a political plot. It was a politics that were also at play to ensure that they deal with this particular situation in Tembisa Hospital.
Now, what do you think would have come out of this investigation? I mean, as far as what you raised, I mean, as early as, I think it was June earlier this year, when you were accused of playing politics and seeking to be the mouthpiece of workers by some of the organizations there. But what do you believe these investigations will reveal, and what have you been blowing the whistle on?
I may be struggling a bit to actually hear you because you are a bit soft.
I'm asking you, what are you hoping these investigations will reveal? Having made the call in June, and some saying that you were playing politics, in fact, they're saying you were trying to make yourself the mouthpiece of workers. What are you hoping, or what are you believing this investigation by the SIU will reveal?
Look, we're hoping that these investigations will uncover many more corrupt activities that have been taking place there. They would ultimately exonerate ourselves and be able to actually expose those that have been at the helm of corruption in that particular hospital. But not just any investigations and all, but we also want to see people being taken to jail for the corrupt activities that have been happening. We want to take a sweep on the problems that have been there, especially in health as well, and ultimately in that particular hospital, to ensure that we uncover all the monies that have been stolen, uncover everything that we think should be uncovered, to ensure that we protect the service delivery in Tembisa Hospital and many more other departments, to ensure that this corruption is dealt with without any fear of any contradiction.
You claim to have evidence. What sort of evidence do you have, and will you be forwarding that evidence to the SIU, or have you done so already?
Look, the evidence that we had, that's why I said earlier on, we're very, very happy and very excited with the prompt response from SIU. The following day, the SIU made contact with us as a civic organization, and we brought in all the evidence, including the whistleblowers that came forth to present all these particular allegations. and we made sure that we presented all those particular allegations. We presented all the evidence at our disposal to the SIU so that the SIU is able to speedily deal with these particular issues and attend to it. And we're very happy also with the response from the NPA as well, to ensure that they also running with the process of dealing and attending to this particular matter. So from where we are as a civic organization, we're very happy with what we have actually presented before the SIU, and we think with the evidence presented is sufficient enough to make sure that they deal and attend to this corruption as it is.
Yeah. You also claim that there are senior ANC officials in Gauteng who are involved here using this money for vote rigging and bribery. Who are those senior officials?
Look, it is our view, especially as we're approaching the provincial conference of the African National Congress, that monies were used and these monies were taken to ensure that it placed certain politicians into positions of power to contest the provincial conference of the African National Congress. And it is our view, firm belief as a civic organization, that even now we want to call upon SIU to actually do a live audit to the chief of staff of that particular department. The lifestyle audit should be actually one of the key things that we are calling upon, because it can't be that you just entered into the office, just 3 months later, you live beyond your means. That on its own tells you that the type of politicians, the type of people that are there at the department are there to loot, are there to mess up our government, and we're not going to allow that to happen. It is our firm belief that that life audit should also be able to happen, and they must actually zoom in that particular department, in particular the chief of staff in that particular department. We're not happy. We think that the Premier must look into this department, must look into that office of the MEC with immediate effect, so that we're able to deal with such type of corrupt element within the organization.
Yeah. Are you saying as Sanco, you are unable to directly engage with the ANC at this particular point to raise these issues?
Look, the first point of entry, immediately when we receive this, we make sure that we write a letter to the African National Congress in the province of Gauteng and the Premier of Gauteng to say, look, this is who we are as a civic organization, this is what we have uncovered, and we want to actually have a bilateral with the African National Congress to engage them on this particular matter, and they just ignored us. And once you ignore us, you leave us with no option. We'll go all out and ensure that we expose this type of corruption. And we're still saying even today that that level of arrogance will not assist, because as we speak now, people are going all out saying the ANC is a corrupt organization. It is important that we start to deal with this corruption without any waste of time.
Are you willing to divulge, except for the chief of staff, any other politically exposed individuals that are involved in this?
The MEC cannot be innocent in this matter. The MEC, in everything else that is taking place, the MEC should take the fall. The MEC as a political head is a person that must be responsible. She knows what is happening, and she knows what is of a chief of staff has been doing. She's aware of everything that has been taking place, and she cannot be spared in this particular corruption. She must take the fall. She must be the first one to take the fall, unfortunately, in this particular situation.
Yeah. And do you believe Babita Deokaran was looking at this and was about to expose this? Is that the reason why she was murdered?
Well, there cannot be any other murder, just say a murder for the sake of murdering. That murder, you can see that it's a murder that seeks to hide the corruption and what would be exposed by the late Babita in terms of that particular issue. So we know that it is actually that seeks to actually expose the corruption that has been taking place. And therefore, we cannot in Gauteng, in the province of peace, and allow such type of barbaric action to happen. And after the person has been killed and nothing else must happen, it should be our view that out of that death, we must make sure that those that are corrupt, those that are exposed, those that thought that they would have taken a life to cover for their shenanigans is not going to happen, and we're not going to actually relax. We'll actually follow them. Even in their bedroom, will follow them until we expose them fully without any fear.
Yeah. Somebody would ask, has Sanco opened any cases with the police, particularly around some of the evidence that you have and the claims that you have made around the stealing of public funds?
Well, Sanco did not, we can confirm that we did not open a case. That's why we're very happy with the prompt response from the SIU, because from our initial media briefing, we said we're calling for the SIU to actually do these investigations. And then we're also very excited with the follow-up and the response from the SIU. So from where we're seated, we think we're comfortable with the work that is done by SIU, because the SIU has shown that they can actually deliver and deal with this matter decisively without any waste of time.
Mpho, Se-se-dinyane, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on tonight, speaking there on behalf of Sanco in Gauteng. He's the provincial coordinator there. We continue in a moment. A story that made the news last week on Friday: sex for grades and jobs for families. This is an investigation that was done by Corruption Watch. We get reaction in a moment from the General Secretary of the South African Democratic Teachers Union to that story. Stay with us.